Hello and welcome to this episode of Bush Footy Legends. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that this podcast is being recorded on the traditional lands of the Noongar people and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. The show is produced by Magic Studios and presented by the WA Country Football League in partnership with Healthway, promoting the Think Mental Health message. On this week's episode, we're joined by Ella Roberts. She's the hottest property in women's footy in this state, a two-time Peel Thunder premiership star, the best player at her national carnival, and now Ella has landed at the Eagles and is ready to launch into an AFLW career. We talk life in the southwest, going at the pointy end of the draft and transitioning into the elite system. I'm your host, Jackson Barrett. Let's get into it. Ella Roberts, welcome to Bush Footy Legends. Thanks for coming on. How's things?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
What's life like as an Eagle now? First few weeks at the footy club in the early stages of an AFLW season and career. What's it like at Lathlane?
Yeah, definitely starting to settle in now, which is pretty good. It's a dream come true, and I'm absolutely loving my time at the Eagles. And yeah, it's just been so awesome so far.
Is there a bit of excitement around the club at the moment? It's been a tough couple of years for them, but you're not the only sort of high-profile recruit that's come in. Is there a bit of a buzz about this new season?
Yeah, 100%. I think lots of the girls can expect some good stuff to happen for us Eagles this year. And yeah, obviously round one's pretty soon, so everyone's getting pretty pumped and pretty excited.
Now, a country girl, obviously, the theme of the show. So, grew up in Margaret River. What was life like as a young girl in Margaret River? Were you a surfer? Were you on property or in town? What was life like growing up down south? Yeah,
I loved life down south. I grew up in town, but on a pretty big property. Absolutely loved it. Lived in one house pretty much my whole life, and absolutely loved my time down there. Surprisingly didn't surf. Everyone thinks everyone from Margaret River surfs, but no, I was stuck more to footy, I guess. Played my whole life, so just started down there as well.
How early did you become attached to footy? What were your sort of early footy memories and how did that come about?
Yeah, I started playing footy in Auskick when I think you have to be like 6 or something to start Auskick. So I was as young as you can be, and played because my older brother played. And wanted to follow his footsteps, and definitely was the right call. Haven't looked back ever since.
Does it go a fair way back in your family, football and sport?
Sport for sure. Not so much footy, but whole family's pretty athletic, and we all love footy. So thought it was the right decision.
What are your memories of sort of early days of Auskick and learning to kick a footy and that sort of thing? And how important is it to towns like that and as far as sort of making friends goes and that sort of thing at that sort of age down there?
I honestly can't really remember that much, but I think I always was in primary school, just was one that hung out with the boys a lot. So they all played footy, so did I. And I loved playing Auskick. Once I started, like I said, I never looked back really. And just kicking the footy with my brother, my dad, outside of school, outside of footy, all the time. It was, a lot of footy, that's for sure. And
a Freo fan growing up, what was some of your early football influences? And I'd assume they're probably mostly wearing purple and white. What's sort of your early memories of watching footy? And was that a family thing?
Yeah, well, my whole family went for West Coast. I think when I was really little, I went for West Coast as well. But I decided that I wanted to be a bit different, so I went with the arch rivals Freo, and never really changed since. But I'd always been a big fan of watching footy and just loved it.
The early days, of course, would have been watching the men mostly. Are there any players that sort of stood out to you from those sort of days? Yeah,
I was a massive Nat Fyfe fan. When he was going through all his prime and stuff like that. So I looked up to him and, got all his footy cards and stuff like that. So, I was a big, big fan.
They say, and it's something that gets wheeled out quite a lot, it's a really important sort of theme for women's football and youth development in the women's football space, but you can't be what you can't see. At what point do you remember sort of watching women's footy? Was it that first night of AFLW or were you sort of aware of it and across it before that?
I probably wasn't. I think I heard of AFLW when it first started, but didn't really get too into it until I think Freo and Eagles started playing. Once I knew of some players, I think I became more and more interested. But I think it took me a couple of years to get into it.
Was there anyone that sort of caught your eye from a women's perspective on field?
Erin Phillips, Taylor Harris are two girls that I still look up to to this day. They were absolute stars, and they're pretty awesome. It's pretty cool to think that I'm in the same competition as them now.
Taylor Harris as well, probably most comparable to the way you play your footy, a marking forward. You've obviously got the athleticism and can work up the ground a little bit, but that sort of, like Taylor Harris, I guess, was really the first in the competition that we saw that could take a high mark, could kick a goal over 40 metres and starting to kick bags and really sort of dominate a forward line. So was that the appeal there?
Yeah, 100%. I would still say that I think I modelled my game off her a little bit, just with that, contested marking and ability to kick goals. So, she's always been someone that I've looked up to and hoped to aspire to be like.
And so footy with the boys in the early days, was there sort of structures and competitions in place for you to play with the girls, or was the first time you did that once you came up to Busso and the Southwest Footy League? Yeah,
so once I hit under 13s, that was my last age group that I could play with the boys. And then there wasn't any female teams in Margaret River, so the next closest was Busselton. So, decided that was the option I was going to take, and that involved just travelling 40 minutes up and to get to Busso. Trained normally just once a week, and then game once a week. But now it's crazy how much it's changed. There's like 2 teams in Margaret River now, and that was only 4 years ago or something like that.
What sort of a commitment was that as a youngster and on your family? It's only 40 minutes. They're essentially a shire across from one another, but it's one of those trips that sort of sneaks up on you a little bit, Margaret River to Busselton, and when you've got everything else going on in your life, particularly school, that would have been a fair commitment for the family. Yeah,
it 100% was. I give a lot of credit to mum and dad for doing it, and there was also another girl from Margaret River, so we would take turns carpooling, so it actually wasn't as bad as it seemed, and it was definitely something I looked forward to throughout the week, so I had no problems doing that drive, but I owe a lot to mum for being so willing and never refusing to drive me up the highway.
At that point in time, did you say that as a bit of an investment in your football future, or was it still just we're doing this to go up to Busso and have a kick with the girls and have some fun, or was it at that sort of time that you started thinking those pathways started opening up and this could be a real option?
Yeah, I think I was just doing it for a bit of fun. I think just knowing I wanted to play footy and that was the only place that I kind of could, it was just, that's what I've got to do. I think, a couple of years later, I eventually realised that footy is what I wanted to do and, had to play for Busso as well and then also at Peel at the same time, so,
Now, that's another commitment again, obviously. So Margaret River to Mandurah starts to get quite a trek. Was Peel the obvious choice because it was slightly closer than the others? I mean, obviously Margaret River is traditionally aligned to East Perth and there might be some bigger clubs around, but was that the appeal for Peel Thunder? Is that how you landed there?
It was a factor. I think the main reason was I just had a friend who I did state 15s with and I wanted to play a bit more of a high-level footy and she played for Peel, so she was just like, Ella, come down to a training. Don't have to play anything, just come down to a training. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And it so happened to be an hour less drive than any Perth team, so it worked out really well. And loved that my time at Peel, so it was definitely the right choice.
We hear lots of stories of youngsters who might be a forward or maybe pushed out to a wing or a cross half back, but in their early days they were sort of an inside midfielder and they were playing up on the ball because they might have been the best player in their side. What about even as far back as sort of youth girls down in Busso? Were you already sort of earmarked as a forward? Did you have that sort of role in mind, or were you sort of playing wherever you were put, or were you up on the ball because you were playing at a good standard?
Yeah, I was actually a bit more of a ruck. I think I was like, I'm pretty tall. I'm not ruck size, but I'm pretty tall. So I just, did that and it meant that I could play a bit as a midfielder. So, I just either did that or would sometimes rotate into the forward line because, I love to kick a snag. But, just rotating in between the ruck and the forward line.
You seem to, and it's something that's obviously started really young, but have a really deep passion about footy. You can sort of hear it even just in your voice when you speak about it. Do you think that's carried you some way and to where you are now, just sort of an ingrained love of playing footy and kicking bags of goals and getting your hands on it?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm pretty lucky that I do love everything about footy, and whether that be watching it or playing it. And I think that, it enables me to be able to learn a lot. Just watching games and stuff, learning what I could do if I was in that position or stuff like that. So, I think I'm very lucky and in a really good position.
Now, had you played a grand final before you came up to Peel Thunder?
I played a grand final the week before the Peel Thunder grand final.
Right.
Yeah.
So first year, you land at the club 2020, first season of WAFLW, and you're in a grand final. You've played 7 games and you're in a grand final. It's a strong Subi side. Hayley Miller's on the other side, and Stannett. That's a pretty good side. They were a really good side all year. And then you kick 2 goals in a grand final and win a premiership. What's that like? What was that day?
Yeah, it was. I look back at it now and I think it's pretty crazy, but at the time I didn't really think too much of it. I think I knew who Hayley Miller was, but that was about it. I didn't really know much AFLW like research or anything like that, so I just thought of it as, I'm just playing against some good girls. But my memories of it were, it was an incredible day, and to be able to make a bit of an impact in the scoreboard was, it was so awesome and very special.
You seem sort of a little bit, might be fair to say, blissfully naive in the early days. A lot of girls might have put a little bit of extra pressure on themselves, particularly at that sort of age, but you sort of come in and, like you say, you're still just playing with a real passion for footy, and there's no pressure on yourself and you don't know much about the opponents. Do you reckon that was a factor on those sort of days? Yeah,
100%. I think not knowing like who people are or what they're good at just enabled me just to go in and play my own footy without focusing on their game. And I think it definitely enabled me to play my best footy without worrying about what they're doing.
Do you remember your goals on the day?
Yeah, I do. They were pretty. I still say to the day they were fluky as the wind was flying, but they went through, and that's all that matters.
Back-to-back premierships the next year. So back-to-back premierships, obviously one of the harder things in football to do. It takes an incredibly close group, and particularly in a competition, I think, where there's still a little bit of talent filtering through each year and probably coming out, and girls are still sort of just learning their craft. That's a pretty incredible footballing achievement in the early days of women's footy in this state. How close was that group, and what did going back-to-back mean?
Yeah, going back-to-back was pretty incredible. It just meant that it wasn't really a one-time thing, in that Peel Thunder were the real deal, and that it wasn't a fluke or anything like that. So, we were pretty determined. We said throughout the whole year, that second year, that we're going to go back-to-back, we're going to do it, and we're going to make a statement, and I think that's what we did. So, all the girls were really tired after that first win, and we just wanted to, do it again, because that win was so special, and it was just as special the second time.
Do you feel like as the competition grows and matures a little bit and develops, that back-to-back premiership side, that team will sort of be a real mark on the history of the early days?
Yeah, I hope so. We were hoping that we could get 3 in a row, and then that would have for sure been a bit of a dynasty. But that team for sure will hopefully go down in Peel Thunder's history books as the first team they ever had that won.
What about other girls from the southwest? So Peel obviously has its own southwest catchment zone. Were you coming up and playing with girls that you'd dealt with before, played with or against or trained with, and that sort of thing? Was it a familiar enough of environment once you came up?
There are a few girls that I knew, but no, I wouldn't say too many. I think I trained a lot with the southwest girls, but not many of them were involved with teams up here. So it was, there was a couple that played for Peel as well, so I did know them, which was good, but it was all pretty new coming up to the city. So
I think when you really came to the fore in this sort of draft pool your year was the national champs, of course. So you go to the champs, you're the best player, you're an All-Australian as a bottom major player of the tournament. What was that like, and was that sort of the time when you went, like, footy's pretty serious here, I'm a couple of years away from the draft, or 12 or 18 months away from the draft, and I'm a real sniff here. Was that sort of the moment for you maybe? Yeah,
I think so for sure. I think, winning that MVP last year definitely, made me think, wow, like, I'm not too bad at this. I could potentially make a career out of it and play professionally. And I've always dreamt of it, but I think, that's when I realised that this is when I could do it.
What sort of worked for you at that tournament? Do you think back at that tournament and sort of reflect on it and look at if there was something that you did at that tournament that you might be able to bottle and take into your career going forward? Because it was a pretty special series of games for you?
Yeah, I think we had a really good team last year, and I think being able to just rely on each other to, hit the ball to you. And yeah, I think I've said it before, like, playing with good girls makes you better. And our team last year was incredible. Like, we nearly beat Vic Metro, and I think they definitely have a huge hand in why I did do so well. I do owe them a lot of credit as well.
So you've sort of broken away from the pack a little bit as a real top draft pick in your year group. How do you start dealing with that sort of pressure? Does the media start to come circling at that time? Do you have to start doing things like this and interviews and that sort of thing? How did you sort of deal with all that at such a young age?
Yeah, so I was really lucky living in Margaret River. It was a bit of an escape. I'd play footy on my weekends, I'd train, but as soon as I went back to Margaret River, none of my good mates really asked about my footy.
Yep.
They didn't care too much, which I loved. I just found it really good having a good balance between talking about footy and then getting away from it. I was really lucky being just so far away that I didn't have to talk about it, so it was good.
Was there anything else you did while you were down there to sort of help clear your head and form a bit of a gap between your time in Margaret River and footy in Perth?
Not too much. I think I was just in a pretty good position where it didn't really affect me too much. I just hang with my mates, just be happy and, not think about it really. I was really lucky.
Do you feel like that's something you're pretty keen to continue, is sort of separating the hectic life of footy and the pressure of footy with your life, whether it's in Margaret River or just sort of generally away from footy? And do you think growing up in a town like Margaret River that's famously characterised by being fairly casual and laid back in a relaxed environment, do you think that helps with that sort of thing?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I would be who I am today if I didn't grow up there. And I think, it's super important. Something that I'm going to continue to do is just have a healthy balance between footy and just life. And that's something that I can do up here as well. I've got friends that don't play footy, so I just go see them, have a chat. I'd definitely say it's super important to have that balance.
For our full chat with Eagles AFLW star Ella Roberts, jump on the podcast app on your phone, Spotify, or wherever else you get your episodes. The link will also be in the show notes down below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bush Footy Legends. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you like, follow and share it with your mates. Make sure you check in on them while you're there. For tips and advice on how to look after yourself, your family and your mates, visit thinkmentalhealthwa.com.au. Get in touch with us through our Instagram page at WA Country Football, or if you want to suggest a guest, email us at wafc.com.au. If you're after more, stay tuned. We'll have an episode dropping every week.